was always making art when I was a kid. That was one of my favorite things to do. I drew all the time. I loved to draw animals, especially animals. My early adolescent work was alchemical imagery, sun and moon, the balance of the polarities. And a lot of my classmates would consider me the good artist of the class. It wasn't like I grew up thinking that I was going to be an artist. I had examples in my life of people making their living as an artist, like my uncle, Michael Ale, who was a well-known painter in Seattle, made his living completely from selling paintings. And yet it didn't occur to me that I could also become an artist. We used to go on walks together when he would visit us and look at plants and talk about bugs.
See, look, the microcosms, look at this log. Look at all those little life forms and how diverse this one little tiny area is. And of course, so that's what you see in my paintings, is these like minute details in tiny, tiny little worlds, because that's what I'm around all the time. Look at these. So tiny, so delicate.
I remember seeing his apartment in Seattle. The main room, when you walked in, there's just this huge table and it was all covered in art supplies and papers. I often think about what it would be like if he was still here and maybe we could paint together. I was again left in the position of having to move into the studio. I didn't have a car. I was living in the studio, which doesn't have a shower. I got a gym membership at the Y, which was right across the street at the time, so it was pretty convenient. It gets a little bit weird when you're just living around your work all the time and not seeing people that much, which is what ended up happening, because winter came again, and then I was just sort of in my own little vortex of surreal paintings and creatures staring at me all the time and nowhere to go to get space from it. I was working on this painting called The Composition of the Waters, which is about dissolution and things breaking down. The painting was also highlighting these two polarized sides of myself that I was battling with. Downtown Olympia is pretty gnarly at times energetically. There's a lot of drugs and a lot of mental illness. My studio is right above the free wall, which is free for anyone and everyone to come and spray paint. I don't think anybody realizes that there's someone up here listening all the time, but there is. Currently, my income streams are writing poetry at the markets. I sell art through my website or when I have an art show. I take my typewriter to farmers markets and I set up with a little table and chair and some paper, and people are invited to give me a topic of their choice, and I'll write them a poem about whatever they tell me.
Events are happening all around the museum today. Be sure to pick the program at the top of the schedule.
I am the fire of the sun, the breath of wind that circles the earth, and I am the earth that holds the water, and I am the water too. What more do I need to be content? To know I am endless, and all that I need lies within me, is to know that I am always free, and joy is simply to be.
It's beautiful. It's just a matter of getting out of the way. In order to be a channel, to have that creativity flowing so easily, you got to get out of the way. You can't be thinking about the poem. It's when you step back and just let it happen that creativity really flows. For me, what that usually entails is getting outside every day, or doing yoga, some kind of physical activity, even singing. Sometimes if the writing's not coming, I'll just play guitar and sing for an hour, and then suddenly I'm refreshed and ready to write. It's a pretty ideal lifestyle, actually, to just spend time outside, spend time creating, and then the work comes through all of that.
In the wild lands of youth, two brothers play their games, hunting for truth and steadying their aims. They cycle to infinity on adventure's path, the wind in their hair as they ride so true and fast. Brothers share a sacred bond that runs so deep and goes beyond the peaks of mountains high. as Hunter reads the story and Moose looks to the sky.
Beautiful.
You're welcome. Sorry. Sorry about that.
No, it's good. I'm just credit. I'm also working on a memoir, really inspired by Anais Nin and Henry Miller and that style of writing, personal reflection and stories about people